Hello and welcome to Women in Retail Talks. I'm Christina Stidham, Digital Content Manager at Women in Retail Leadership Circle. Today I'm joined by Megan Johnson, Vice President of Marketing at Jane, a boutique marketplace featuring the latest in women's fashion trends, accessories, home decor, children's clothing, and more. We're going to be talking about how Jane powers small businesses, its social engagement strategy, customer loyalty best practices, and much more. So Megan, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
So can you start off by telling us a little bit more about your career background and how you came to join Jane?
Yeah, I loved marketing. I fell in love with it in high school when I took a marketing class and realized that people actually made money doing this. And this is, before even the appeal of the Mad Men era, right, with the sexy advertising. Started my career very early on working for agencies, and then moved to actually cable during the cable wars, with launching new techs like streaming services, video on demand, and really fell in love with marketing in the new tech space. And as I came up through my career, I was with a local media agency that had a very large marketplace. And as I was the general manager over there, this new up-and-comer Jane we'd heard about, and very excited to see what they were doing in the commerce space. And so when I had the opportunity to switch and go work for them, I was really excited about bringing affordable fashion in the marketplace to many of our consumers. So that's what led me to Jane. And yeah, I've just been doing this for such a long time. It's fun to see what has happened in the last 20 years with the launch of digital, with commerce, and really how small businesses who normally had your shop around the corner can now reach, millions of consumers with just a click of a button.
Yeah, so that actually goes right into my next question. I was wondering if you could tell us more about Jane's e-commerce marketplace and how it empowers those small businesses you were just talking about.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, Jane is an online marketplace that gives small businesses around the country kind of that first impression right on the internet. And we're really a go-to source for women's fashion, accessories, home, baby. We really are one of the more rare marketplaces that are thriving in this, age of Amazon, right? With different marketplaces popping up. We have a really budget conscious consumer, but she loves finding that kind of unique find that sets her apart. So when she's with her friends or what have you, that she can say, yeah, I found this kind of cool thing that you don't have, and kind of helps keep her ahead of the trends. We work, like I said, with a lot of small businesses, and that was really why Jane was started in the first place, was to help these sellers get that platform to really sell. So it's really at the heart of who we are as a marketplace. That really did shine through for us as the pandemic started earlier this year, or I guess this would be last year. When our sellers started to see their local areas go under lockdown, they were wondering how they were going to stay in business, how they could continue to reach their consumers. Obviously, shipping and other things became a challenge. So we wanted to make sure that we could provide them with the tools to succeed. So one of the things that we did is that we instantly changed some of our requirements regarding inventory and shipping, and communicated with our customers that, hey, it may be a little bit longer, there may be, a few snags, but we want to make sure that you can still get the products that you need, and our sellers can still deliver that to you. And that really, for some of our sellers, helped save their businesses in those early days of the pandemic, where they were really struggling to figure out how they were going to do that. In addition to that, we saw almost a 400% increase in new seller applications as small businesses were trying to figure out what the next step for them was as things were changing. So it really, for us, is, important that we continue to kind of help them do that. And obviously, consumers were looking for the products that they have. And that's what's so great about bringing a marketplace, is that we can marry the two together.
Yeah, and so let's dive into a bit of marketing strategy. Like you were just saying, the year of 2020 certainly was a whirlwind with the coronavirus pandemic, as well as social unrest. And then that all caused such drastic shifts in consumer behavior that just continue to change over and over again. So how has Jane changed its marketing efforts to adapt?
Yeah, so one of the things that we saw early on with the pandemic was our normal was rocked. Consumers, I mean, we face this obviously in our personal lives, but consumers didn't think that this would last very long, right? We believed that this was just going to be a couple weeks, maybe a couple months. And as it started to drag on, obviously we knew there was a bigger impact. But in those early days, we anticipated quickly that we needed to make sure that we could match products with where consumers were. So for example, with a mom who now was working from home, had to worry about homeschooling, she needed some comfortable clothes that she could look good on her Zoom meeting with, and then also be able to run and help her, kids do schooling. They also had to maybe entertain children. And so, like, for example, puzzles became really big for us during this time period as both moms and dads tried to figure out what to do with their kids. So matching those products early on and pivoting from where normally, in the spring, the fashion calendar would have dictated summer dresses and Easter and all of the things that at that time period, we just couldn't do as a nation, right? So being able to say, you know what, your new normal is different, and we've got some items for you that can kind of help you get through that. And really, that's about meeting consumers where they are, right? Like, that's part of the fundamentals of what we believe in marketing. And for some businesses to say, oh, well, consumers are still buying. Yeah, they were buying, but their mindset had changed. What problems were our businesses, and for Jane, what were we solving for them at that time period? Because the other thing we did is we were one of the first online companies to start selling masks. And as a result, we're donating masks to our local communities and trying to help people in those early days get those, because we saw that regardless of what was going to happen, that those would be a need that people would have. And, we worked with our sellers to make them. Some of our apparel companies switched from some of the manufacturing of tops and bottoms to making masks to get those for us very quickly. I also believe too that shift and some of the things that we did in our messaging to our consumers is, being compassionate in their time of need. There's a lot of fear, there was, and there still is, about what was going to happen. And so your traditional, sales or marketing messages that you normally would have put in would fall flat. So we had to make sure that we were really intentional with those, how we communicated with them, how we matched products to where they were. And also at the time, thought about the way our channels even showed up in there. Like, for example, your Instagram feed or the emails that we sent, making sure that they were appropriate and relevant.
Yeah, all of that was super important. And we've heard that from a lot of different companies that we've been talking with, is definitely meeting customers where they're at and understanding that empathetic side of it.
Yeah.
So then, and also, keeping up with your customers and engaging them, I noticed that Jane has very active social communities. So I'm wondering how you engage your followers on social media. What's your strategy around that? And also, do you work with affiliates or influencers?
Yeah. So to answer your first question on our active social communities, we really take our engagement and that community very seriously, and really are thoughtful and deliberate about the things that we put on our social channel. And if you notice, if you scroll through our feed, we'll insert a meme and a joke now and then. And what we find that our customers really love about that is, we're not just sell, right? We do provide products that you can buy, but we also give them a little bit of comic relief, something that's relevant to what's happening, where they can kind of say, yeah, I agree with that. We offer fashion tips and things to kind of help them decorate their home and produce a lot of content that's relevant to them. And we've just seen not only our engagement increase on our social channels, but also too, sales have increased. We have partnered actually with Facebook on some of their testing with Instagram shopping, Facebook Lives, and just trying to continue to, communicate better with our customers in those social channels. And especially through last year with the pandemic, people are scrolling through their feeds, and if they see something they like, we want to make sure that we reduce that barrier for them to purchase, but also to just give them some great content that they can consume. And yeah, our social team does a fantastic job. But with that though, when you talk about affiliates and influencers, we work very closely with our affiliates and influencers, and we look at them very similarly in the fact that these are also, working moms who have an audience who's looking for those great tips. And they have great tips. And our audience loves to connect with those influencer and affiliates who are like, hey, this is how you use this particular tool, or how you could style a graphic tee. So what becomes important for us when we work with them is getting some of their content that we can repurpose on our channels, because our audience, really, really loves that. one of the things that we did early on too in the pandemic, because we realized, that these are working parents and we want to make sure that we supported them, is we leaned in on our commissions and bonuses with our affiliates and influencers during that time window when a lot of companies, including Amazon, pulled back on their marketing. And a lot of those affiliates and influencers were upset because they were like, wait, this is part of our income, this is what we're doing. And we said, no, hey, we want to support you. If you want to work with us, we want to work with you, and we'll get products into your hands so that you can continue to create in your home, and we'd love to partner with you. And as a result, for us, I mean, it increased our revenue over 165%. It was really, really big for us.
Wow.
Yeah. It allowed us later, about 6 weeks later, to create a campaign using their content, because at that time, we couldn't do a photo shoot either. And I'm sure a lot of retailers who are listening to this felt this struggle in 2020, which was, how are we going to do typical photo shoots that we do? So instead, we used the content that was created during that time period and had a very, very successful campaign over the summer using the content that was created from that. And the influencers loved it as well, right? They loved being featured. It added, it was just an amazing campaign for us in that time. And we look at influencers and our affiliates, they're real humans, right? They are our consumer in a way, and taking our products and bringing them to life. And so we really do treat those relationships with really great respect. And in return, they do the same for us, and they produce well. So it's a win-win for both sides.
Yeah, I was just actually thinking, I'm going to say that sounds like a win-win for everybody.
Yeah.
And I love that. Yeah. When a lot of others were pulling back, you guys kind of dove into it and you saw a lot of benefits, a lot of reward for sticking with it.
Well, it helped, this is one of the things as we think through 2021 too, is that those influencers and affiliates remembered how a brand treated them during the pandemic. And when the holidays came around, one of the feedback we heard when we were reaching out for some of our holiday planning was they were eager to work with us because we worked with them, and they had actually abandoned some of the other brands. And when the brands came knocking, they were not as apt, right, to work with them because they had felt a little betrayed. So I think that's a good lesson for many brands and many retailers, that especially when you're working with like humans, right? It's the human element. As you go into 2020, how we treat our consumers today and how we treat our partners will impact us in the future too. Even though, I'm sure many, retailers and other brands were scrambling, right? Marketing budgets were changing. There was a little bit of chaos ensuing as regarding to that. And they had to make some hard decisions. But that's one where, again, the human element really does take play, and we appreciate what they do for us and the sales they bring us and those partnerships, and we value those, and we'll continue to do that here in 2021.
Yeah, that's excellent tips, because it really is how you treat other people, consumer facing and with your partners as well. That's a great point. Kind of speaking about other e-commerce businesses and marketplaces, I'm wondering how Jane competes with other larger marketplaces, especially Amazon, like you mentioned. And, part of that is keeping customers loyal. So do you have any best practices that you can share in customer loyalty?
Yeah, so it is, Amazon obviously is the big heavy, right? As Jane, we followed an interesting intersection for sellers who are too small for Amazon, but maybe too large for Etsy. There's just kind of this midsection where we bring some really great small businesses and larger brands that want to sell on Jane. And you can't find the stuff that you can find some, but we have such an amazing curated product assortment on Jane that is different than what you would find on some of these other marketplaces. So first, that's one of the things that keeps our customers coming back, is that discovery on Jane. Every day we launch new deals at midnight Mountain Time. And, it's exciting to see, again, especially the retail therapy, what new thing is going to be on Jane. And it's easier to find than like you typically on an Amazon, where maybe they can't surface to you some of those new fashion finds that we know what they're looking for, whether it's apparel, maybe it's a men product, maybe it's baby, it's home. That's kind of our secret sauces in our curation. And that does keep our customers coming back and loyal. We did this year launch a loyalty program, which, as many retailers know, helps, bring people who are loyal back, but also to incentivize and also surprise and delight some of those more, I would say, more valued customers, right? They have a longer lifetime value with you, and give them the opportunity to really get products back, get points back, and really reward them for making those repeat purchases time after time. And for that, we've seen huge success on that. And for those customers who are just testing us out for the first time, it gives them that opportunity to go, hey, maybe I'll make that second purchase and try maybe a different seller, and get to know us more as a marketplace. That's one of the things where we focus more on the product, where a lot of other marketplaces may focus on the seller. So a lot of times consumers, when they have that first experience, they're like, oh, wow, now I want to kind of dip into a different seller. And that kind of, like I said, that discovery mode gets them coming back all of the time.
So now I want to pivot to talking about your experience. I'm wondering if you have had any mentors who have helped you advance in your career. And, in related to that, have you yourself ever acted as a mentor for others? And why is this mentorship aspect important?
Yeah, one of the early mentors in my career was actually my cousin Lance. As I mentioned early on, that I got excited about marketing when I was in high school, and really all of a sudden saw this new path for me in a career that I didn't actually know was possible. And he really encouraged me to pursue it. And when I did, he pushed me hard to learn as much as I can. He was also a sounding board for me, as we're young and coming up through our careers, right? We're learning a lot. We're still trying to navigating the political waters of a job and how all of that works. And he was very supportive in that. As a matter of fact, he taught me a really good lesson early on. I called him upset. I'd had my very first kind of feedback 360 review, and I had received some pretty harsh feedback. And he basically told me to suck it up, and that my manager was probably right, and that I needed to review the feedback and decide what was useful and how I could use that to improve, and just shake it off and do better. And that has stuck with me, because I think it's hard to be told that we're all not perfect. I certainly am not. Many mistakes over my career, and that's why I believe that mentorship is important. So early on, him teaching me that, as I've had several employees work for me over the years, I really try to have them think outside of just how this applies to maybe this job. I talk with them often about their career paths, how they show up in marketing, that it isn't just, kind of this set it and forget it, that it's the creative side, that it's thinking about the consumer, that, they need to be digging into the industry and really working with them on that, future forward career development, and not just kind of thinking about in the moment, where a lot of times people focus on just the pay or just their title, where there's more to that, right, in the career. And I want them to kind of help understand that. And I do feel like being that mentor to a lot of these up and comers is super important. And boy, I'm impressed every day with the caliber of people who are coming into this field, both in commerce and in marketing. They're hungry, they're eager. Social media and the way marketing has impacted them in their life, and the ideas that they're bringing forward. I mean, we're seeing that, right, with some of the virility of TikTok videos and things like that. I mean, that's coming from this new crop of people who are bringing some amazing ideas, right? And so as a mentor, it's helping shape this harness this creativity into a powerful career for each of them. So I feel it's very important, and try to do that with all of my employees, as well as as look to other mentors who have paved the way, who can also continue to teach me.
That is amazing. Yeah, that is exactly what we like to hear at Women in Retail Leadership Circle, is that you're helping the next group of people come up and really fostering their growth. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's fun.
So for my last question, I'm wondering what you are most looking forward to in 2021 as we continue through the year, either personally or professionally at Jane.
Well, personally, I'm excited about travel. I can't wait to get on an airplane and go somewhere. I don't know about your listeners or you, but maybe the four walls of our homes are closing in a little bit. So yeah, I'm excited to travel. I'm a hugger. And in the pandemic world, hugging is horrible, right? You can't hug. And I'm excited to give people a hug and embrace people a little bit more. Professionally, this next year, this 2021 is going to be very interesting and challenging in a different way that 2021 was. We all know that retail and commerce has been disruptive. It's very scary. It's also very exciting. From a marketing standpoint, I look at this like there's some new rules, there's new games, there's new opportunities. And as marketers, while it seems a little chaotic and it seems a little uncertain, I think as we look forward to, what this new normal is going to bring, and we reflect on the past of other, things that have happened, we can start to create, I think, some new opportunities for us personally in our careers, for the companies that we work with, for our consumers. And so to me, that's very exciting. And, what that brings, like I said, I'm not as scared as I am excited about that. So.
Yeah, we definitely have a lot to look forward to and also some challenges coming up this year. So
Yeah.
Best of luck with everything. And thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Women in Retail Talks, Megan.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening. For more information on this podcast, please check out our podcast channel page at womeninretail.com/podcast for show notes. Women in Retail Talks is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and Spotify. Make sure to subscribe on our podcast channel page as well. If you've enjoyed this episode, please take a few moments to rate and review. Thanks, and until next time, this has been Women in Retail Talks.